Ember Witch. Book 1. The Lich. Volume 1. Black Tragedy. Chapter 3. Half-Blood. October 21st to December 21st, 458 BME. Fragment 17. Homecoming.
Never doubt yourself again,
Cress said with frustration in her voice as she climbed off of him with a soft slap to the face for good measure. She adjusted her clothes and checked her pockets for any damaged or lost items. Feeling satisfied that nothing was amiss, she watched as Fevra stood up doing the same.
Thank you.
Fevra replied as he looked her up and down with a new appreciation.
I know what you have been keeping from me now. I understand why you hid it away.
Fevra said as he stepped slowly to her.
Let me guess, I am disgusting for it. I just raped you. You think I am a monster now? I've heard it all before and I don't want to hear it again.
Cress shot out and Fevra stepped even closer.
No. I want to thank you for showing me who you really are. I didn't understand it until now. I didn't think it would have ever come to this.
Fevra said, then kissed her again. They held together for a long moment as Fevra ran his hand down her stomach.
I was a disgrace to my family. I was beaten and abused for being this way,
Cress said after their kiss ended.
None of that matters now. You have a true family, you have Neela, Vera and me. I am never going to abandon you. I can't let something so small like losing an arm destroy what has been given to me. Thank you for believing in me and trusting in me,
Fevra said and kissed her again. They made it back to their camp some time later with 7 small birds, a handful of nuts and a rabbit in their packs. Both Vera and Neela were sitting by a deep red fire warming themselves up and laughing about something. Vera was the first to notice their arrival and obvious wet clothing and fur.
Oh shit, you didn't. You did, holy fuck.
She yelled out in total awe and excitement, then began laughing even harder.
Finally you guys fucked. I was beginning to think that you were celibate. Good gods, this calls for a celebration. Give me every detail. I have to know. Oh, did she use her hips? Gods, how she learned that move I will never know.
Derek continued joking as they sat next to her and Neela.
Shut up, Vera, you make everything seem like it's a huge joke,
Neela said, tossing a small snowball at her.
Hey, we all know this girl has some impressive talent. If I wasn't on this fucking job I'd have taken a spin for old time's sake,
Vera said with a smile as she grabbed the bags from Cress, who shrugged off the jokes. Fevra, however, was burning under his fur.
Gods. Can I just get a break here? Yes, okay, we had sex, so what? And are you telling me you've had sex with her as well?
Fevra said with complete embarrassment in his voice.
It's usually part of our training. Each of us would spend a year in the whorehouses training in sex to use it as a weapon. A lot of men and even women will say or do anything when you offer up your body. Vera and Cress trained together. I wouldn't let that get to you. Because you joined us at such an age as to have already reached sexual maturity, and with your combat and culture training taking up all of your time, we couldn't just throw you into a whorehouse for a year. I am a bit jealous if I'm completely honest though. Cress knows exactly what to do,
Neela said, taking the bag from Vera, pulling out a bird to prepare.
Remember, Fevra, we are not lovers, we are killers. It's just sex. I don't doubt that you have feelings for her, and by the looks of it she does as well. I suggest that both of you focus on our job first and your emotions second. Now if you two are feeling adventurous, how about we have an orgy?
Vera said, then laughed so hard she started snorting. Cress picked up a handful of snow and tossed it at her.
Shut up,
she said, laughing along with Vera. Fevra, however, was still embarrassed and confused about everything that had happened. It wasn't as if having sex with Cress meant they were a couple now, but he couldn't help but feel like it wasn't just sex. It was more raw and passionate than just a quick fuck. He wanted to speak to Cress in private about the situation, but he had no idea what to say. Was it just sex to her, or was there something more to it? It had crossed his mind before that Vera wanted to do the same. After the year, they had traveled together, fought each other, seen each other naked, and even slept together. They had never had sex. Vera was an extremely beautiful woman with the sense of an untamed beast about her, and he couldn't help but see her as someone who would not only kill him for trying to actually do it, but kill him just to please herself. Neela was too much of his boss and leader for his mind to think of her in any situation involving sex, but now that he truly understood what the Cynder was, he almost wanted to see what she could do. Was it wrong for him to be surrounded by such deadly yet beautiful women? Was it wrong for him to have feelings for Cress yet want to learn what Neela and Vera were capable of? It hadn't crossed his mind in the months after his exile due to his mourning, and the year he had spent training with Vera was too cramped for sex to cross his mind, besides for the awkward first months after meeting Cress. He felt as if he was wrong to think this way. His pack had always taught that a partner must be loyal. He hadn't married before his exile and honestly never thought about it because he was always on a hunt. What would Cress or Vera or even Neela think of him if he was to ask? What would be the consequences of his actions in a situation like that?
Fevra, I hope our jokes didn't make you uncomfortable. It's all in the name of fun. I understand you have been through a lot recently. We usually don't have many Cynders who weren't raised from a young age into our way of life. I can tell that Cress gave you exactly what you needed in the moment. Your pressure has calmed, you have regained your confidence in yourself. There is still pain underneath, but you are beginning to see through it. I didn't choose to make you a Cynder because of your magical experience or your necromantic pressure. I picked you because you hold this air of confidence. Even at your lowest points you fight as if it's your last. Vera was assigned to be your partner because she needed someone to care about, and she showed just that in the Morden's prison. Even with your pressure causing her dread and despair, she wanted to make sure you were all right. We are a family. Not a family of blood but a family of killers. We each have our flaws and strengths. We fight together, we live together, we fuck together, and we die together. You have not failed me. You might have lost an arm, but you will never lose us.
Neela explained as the group listened to each word. Fevra saw both Vera and Cress nodding in agreement to the statement. He looked at all three women before him and smiled.
Thank you, all of you. I was lost for so long. I hadn't thought I would see my next cycle, and yet here I am. Neela, if it wasn't for you I would be dead. Vera, if you hadn't given it your all training me I would have surely been killed, and Cress, if you hadn't beaten me into submission I would have destroyed myself along with everyone else. I am still struggling, for God's sake I am missing an arm and can't ride a horse for shit, but I am alive and have the power to make the world a better place. I am a Cynder. I am your clan brother and I refuse to let this single incident destroy me.
Fevra said, and the three women raised their hands to their chests, thumping their hearts 3 times in succession. The moment stood silent for a short while before Vera spoke again.
So, orgy anyone?
And with 3 swift movements she was pelted with snowballs. Eve woke up in a sweat and terror as she flailed about on her bed. The dream, still so vivid in her mind, had occurred enough for her to take notice that something more significant was taking place. The dream always started the same way. A human woman sitting on a throne of light would stand up at the sound of screaming and crashing just out of reach, walk to a large set of doors and open them with a flourish to reveal a massive metal being with deep purple lights glowing from inside its body. The scene would then shift quickly to the woman standing at a table with a large bowl filled with water. She would cough up black blood into her hands and look at them with horror in her eyes. Once more the scene would shift, however the details always escaped her, as if the dream was somehow distorted by fog. The next shift showed the woman watching over a small girl playing in her yard. Her blonde hair flowing in the breeze. Finally, the last shift would go right back to the throne. The woman would speak in tongues with only a few words coming through before once again it would be replaced by images of gore and death. Her heart was beating so fast she could feel it fighting against her ribs. She rolled over, laying eyes on the moon and all its green and blue glory. Tears streaming down her face were the only comfort she had left. The 4 Cynders finally made it back to Myopia and had been escorted directly to Kysha's throne room by a group of over 20 guards. As they had passed through the streets, crowds spoke in hushed tones, asking each other what constituted such a large movement, but none of them knew the truth. Some thought it was an execution, while others thought it could be a noble family coming to speak with the Morden. They each kneeled at the foot of her throne, awaiting her to speak, but she sat there silently. She looked exhausted and afraid, but still held a royal appearance. After a few long moments of silence, Kysha finally spoke in a low tone.
What has transpired over the past several months has not only been horrific but a test of my patience. Takashi murdering the Grand Bell Sage, a clan of necromancers running around every corner of the East, and now a threat of invasion from the Elven Kingdom. I expect you four to already have begun planning our counter towards such an invasion, however I cannot imagine what that might consist of. I have not slept in days. I've been going over everything in my head and it doesn't add up. Neela, do you consider the necromancers to be part of this elven plot, or are they not connected?
She finished, looking directly at Neela. She looked up to Kysha and answered as honestly as she could with the information they had.
I believe they are connected but not set out by the Elven. Persian believes that Takashi was the one who was involved with the necromancers and not the Elven. My best guess is that Takashi was hired to create disorder by any means he saw fit. In our own studies of necromancy we had plenty of material and information laying about the sanctuary to inform Takashi about certain lost magics that could be useful in not only disorder but our profession as killers. Persian specifically mentioned blood blades as the main interest of the necromancers.
Kysha frowned, then looked over to Fevra, who had a look of confusion on his face.
I am not exactly familiar with bloodblades. Vera had mentioned them before but didn't give any details,
he said, and Vera spoke up.
Your Grace, if I may. Blood blades are an extremely dangerous form of necromantic magic. If one was to create such a weapon, it would require the blood of at least a dozen people. They are forged by removing the iron from said blood and forming it into a variety of bladed weapons. This is not only something that needs mass murder to create, but the effects that come after when someone is even cut by these weapons could cause disease. We are talking about a plague that could kill thousands by just one person being infected. The entire Saren race was wiped off the face of Haven because of this plague. An entire race of people killed by something that was created by a necromancer. If Takashi was truly attempting to create something that evil, we need to act now.
Dara explained, and Fevra looked back at her in shock.
I don't want to commit my forces to a suicidal mission. We have no idea how widespread the necromancers are, or even if what this Persian said is true. My best guess is that they are few in number, but with the rumors that have been spreading, it has been causing unrest. If word gets out that a plague of that magnitude could be coming, all Void will break loose. Vera and Fevra should be the ones to track down the necromancers within our walls. They have the most experience in the dark magic, while Neela and Cress hunt for the elven spy,
Kysha said, causing Fevra to speak.
Your Grace, my people must know of this. If the Elven invade, they will be the second target they go after. The human kingdom shares its borders with the Lyran. Even with the fog of the Evergreen to protect them, they would be no match for an army of mages. I must ask that you send me to warn them.
Dara shot up from her knees and grabbed Fevra, pulling him close.
We need you here. There is nothing you could say that would allow them to take you back. Don't you dare walk out on us now.
Dara said angrily, but Fevra could see in her eyes she wanted him to stay for her. After their time locked in Lion's dungeon, she had changed. She had opened herself to him. Had shown him a part of her that never came out before.
Vera, we don't have time to fight over this. If the Elven find the sword, they could use it against us. That thing had the power to possess me. Imagine what it could do if it was held by an Elven mage. We are talking about the most powerful army the world has known, in the complete control of that thing. I have to warn them.
Fevra replied, not letting Vera's outburst get to him.
Fevra is right. He must warn the Lyran of the possible elven threat. However, as a Cynder, you have a duty to serve me before anything else. Cress and Neela, you will hunt down the elven spies. Fevra and Vera, you will track down the necromancers, after which Fevra can warn his people before coming back to protect the city. Do I make myself clear?
Kysha asked. Neela stood up and bowed as Vera, Fevra, and Cress stood to attention.
Yes,
Your
Your
Grace.
Grace.
They said in unison.
I will call the council with the Dermorden about this while you're away. Go and prepare for your journey. I want you on the road by Monday,
Kysha said, waving her hand for them to leave. They bowed and walked to the door, but before Fevra left he stopped.
Your Grace, what if the Elven are not connected to the necromancers at all? What if Takashi was the only one working with them? Could it be possible that he was a double agent?
Vera, Cress and Neela turned around immediately in surprise.
What do you mean?
Kysha asked, curious about the possibility.
We have only a criminal's word to go off of right now. If Takashi had been working for the Elven, do you believe he would sell out his entire race for money? What if he was only taking the job to learn more about their invasion, and once he knew what they were planning decided to begin the creation of a force that could combat the Elven? As Vera said, the plague that wiped out the Saren was from necromantic magics. What if he was planning on using that power to stop them? To essentially destroy the Elven races for good? Cress, Vera, Neela, you knew Takashi far better than I ever did. Was he the kind of person who would sell out his entire race like that?
Fevra asked, and Vera had a look on her face of contemplation.
He never came off that way. Even during tough jobs he always put the law above his self-interests. Not saying he was perfect or didn't do what would benefit him in the end, but he never had that kind of personality,
Neela answered.
Vera, look through everything dealing with bloodblades and necromancy you have. See if he left any clues towards his intentions. I can't trust that he isn't a traitor, but in the possibility he isn't, we could turn the necromancers on our side. You have my attention, Fevra. We will look at every possibility there is,
Kysha said, and Fevra bowed, then joined the others as they left the throne room. Vera turned through page after page, examining every inch of text for any sign. She had only been at it for 10 minutes when she noticed how badly she smelled. She had a week before they had to get back on the road. She set the book down and grabbed a clean set of clothes from her shelf. She walked down the cold hallways to the hot spring where she would relax. She opened the door and stepped into a cloud of steam.
Privacy doesn't seem to be a thing to you, I guess,
Fevra said, looking at her with an upside-down gaze.
I assumed you were sleeping like Neela and Cress,
she said, stepping forward, then leaned against the wall, gazing down at him.
I wanted to, but I couldn't stand the way I smelled. I'm guessing you feel the same,
he said, now looking back at the water that steamed around him.
Mind if I join you?
Vera asked after a moment. She spoke in a shy tone that threw Fevra off. He looked back at her and gestured with his head as if saying sure, but he didn't make a sound. Vera stripped her clothes off, dropping them to the stone floor, and stepped into the pool of water, letting its warmth wash over her. Fevra watched as she stepped past him, running his eyes over her scars that made a dark claw pattern in the center of her back. She sat across from him and began scrubbing her fur clean. Fevra watched her every move, studying her body with both interest and pain as more and more scars showed themselves under her fur. Several of them on her wrist showed through as she ran the rag across it, and Fevra looked away in embarrassment.
I attempted many times before. These were quickly healed after I got a hold of myself. I don't regret them. I am the woman I am today because of everything I have done. My sister's murder, my suicide attempts, the countless times I fought for scraps of food. Don't look away from me in pity. I wear these scars with pride,
Vera said, then squeezed the rag out to pour water over her shoulder, letting it wash the soap away.
I didn't mean to,
Fevra spoke, but was interrupted as Vera moved forward, placing her finger to his lips.
Don't talk,
she said, then pressed her chest forward as she straddled him. She pressed herself into him, wrapping her arms around his back, and placed her snout close to his ear.
Now I have you all to myself,
she spoke in a whisper that sent shivers down his spine. Vera enveloped them in her color, then playfully bit at his ear. Fevra shuddered at the pleasure and submitted to her every move.